Welcome to the MorningStar Podcast, a space for real conversations and shared experiences. Together, we'll explore the ideas and stories that inspire, guide, and connect us all. Let's get started. The MorningStar Podcast discusses topics related to recovery, addiction, and mental health, which may be sensitive for some listeners. We are not medical professionals, and this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice or treatment. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the MorningStar Podcast. My name is Jared, and I'll be your host today, and I'm here with my co-host, Morgan.
Hello.
We're really excited about today's episode. We're joined by Don White. Don serves on the Drug Task Force for the Fort Berthold Reservation. Just to get us started, do you want to introduce yourself and just give us a little background?
Yes, my name is Don White. I am an enrolled member of MHA Nation. I'm a RICRA, born and raised in White Shield, graduated in 1994. Went into the service, U.S. Army, served honorably for 8 years. Got out, went to our local college. At that time, it was the Mandan Hidatsa Narikra college. And got 2 degrees. And then one day I decided in July of 2008 to be a cop. And I've been in law enforcement for the past 16 years. And just recently been appointed to the chief of the MHA Drug Task Force, or Drug Enforcement.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So what does a day-to-day look like for you?
As patrol agent or chief?
Whichever one you want to talk about. Yeah, all of them.
Patrol, it was just, my day-to-day was just, patrolling MHA, whatever I could find. I think my first year in patrol, if some don't know, I drove an all-white car. They gave me the worst vehicle in the fleet, the oldest vehicle in the fleet. It had a bubble, old-time bubble lights on the top. Yes, it was a wicked Crown Vic. Yes, it was.
Here comes Don.
And everybody knew me. Everybody knew who I was. After a while, I was very notorious on my traffic stops and stopping people and being a little out of what the normal cops do. Like, a lot of people did not know that I would actually get out of my vehicle and actually patrol streets on foot to see things.
Really?
Yes. And sometimes that's why some people would be like, man, say your name, and like you just appear. And then, so that's kind of how I got my reputation for, oh my God, it's Don White, But for the most part, it was just whatever happens on the res, happens on the res. I was a cop before the boom. In that time, there was a lot of alcohol-related incidents, a lot of accidents, a lot of DVs where people were under the influence of alcohol that I had to respond to. When my first year, I was very professional. I really didn't say anything to parents when, their kids were being neglected or anything. I didn't feel that it was my place. But then as I got more into my career, I was like, if you created these kids, look after these kids. They didn't ask to be here. And really get after the parents. Then I noticed when meth really hit Fort Berthold. And how I noticed that as a cop was we had 3 bars in Newtown. And they all had off-sale. And before the boom, everybody would walk out with off-sale. And when meth hit, it started getting smaller and smaller of the group of people bringing out off-sale from the bars. And us guys were trying to figure out, like, then why are they still acting up? Because meth was new to us, the para, everything, that was all still very new to us. And I can't give you a defining moment in my career in law enforcement where I want to do drug work. I was just good at finding weed in a car, knowing somebody was under the influence. I was just, I could just see it. Then the boom hit. And then it got really crazy. A lot of people don't know, but during that time, there was only 6 of us, 6 officers for the whole res.
When the boom hit, is that when, because I remember being in high school and stuff, and I don't always remember having DEA.
No.
Okay.
We weren't created until 2015.
Okay.
And because of a lot of the meth related things that were happening, and then that's when the FBI came in and the BIA Drug Enforcement, and they asked officers, to work with them, and because they start seeing the trend of traffickers coming to, they're going to be attracted to the money. So you go where the money is.
Yep.
So, and that's when I just developed a skill level that has carried with me, I did in 2014, did receive an award for champion in Indian country. That award is by
like
the
champion
department.
cop or champion what?
Just
Or what do you mean?
It's just champion in law enforcement in Indian country.
On the team,
Awesome.
And that was a national award that's from OJS and was given to me by Rick Volk, and even at that time Eric Holder was there during the when it was given to us. So it was pretty exciting and that. But a lot of people don't know this, is that I got it in 2014, but 2013 and 2014 were probably the best years of my career, but also the worst moments. The worst moment of my life to date.
Okay. What was taking place or what was going on?
I lost my grandma and grandpa that raised me. My grandpa first, that was my hero. That was somebody that I could always talk to, always go to. That was my rock. And now after 30 some years, I have to live life and deal with life by myself now. And grief is a really ugly emotion. And not all of us, I don't care who you are, where you come from, nobody prepares you. I don't care how many funerals you go to. It doesn't matter, but that one person that means more to you than life passes. And you got to deal with the silence and the death of it. And I became a workaholic. It was nothing for me to work 16, 18-hour days and then sleep 5 hours and then come right back and do it. To the point where people were worried for me, you're going to burn yourself out, Don. I'm like, no, I'm not. It was bittersweet getting that award because they weren't there. All their teachings, everything they gave me in life got me to that level. And, they weren't there. And, but then it also prepared me for what I'm doing now. That work level, that work ethic, that professionalism that, I wanted us to be. I firmly believe, we're not like regular officers. Patrol has to just do with the face value of stuff. the agent level is where we peel back. And okay, I will say this, not everybody knows how to talk to people. Because there's times where officers have spoken to somebody and then that person is like, I don't want to talk to you, but I'll talk to you. And then it's just like, whoa, calm down. Everybody calm down here. And that's why it's kind of a joke in our office that, yeah, with Dawn, it's 50-50. Either they really love her or they really hate her. But
I have a question about I don't want to say this on the using, like when the boom. So there's like before the boom and then after the boom, and it seems like it was two different timelines. Like for myself, when I was when I was still in my addiction, it was like you said, it seemed like meth, alcohol and then meth. But then when the boom happened, it seemed like any kind of drug you can think of and imagine was here.
Yes.
All at once.
Yes.
And so abundant and so much money and so much people and so much it was like a boom in every way you could think, And so I know how it was being on the using side of things. It was like crazy and exciting and scary, and like I said, it was drugs everywhere. And I just would, what was that like on the law enforcement side? Like what do you remember? Like I don't know, just what
I remember with the meth, what was scary for me was it transitioned to a lot of needles. I arrested somebody and they were a meth addict and I knew they had Hep C, and they bit me during the fight. And like every day, every 2 to 3 months I had to go in and go get tested. And it was always scary for me because I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for that, but it was part of the job. I knew the risks of the job, and that was one thing. But yeah, the needles, to search a house, it was like, when I say needles, I'm not talking like 2 or 3 over here. What I'm talking about is we would see shoe boxes full of them. We would see the huge jumbo laundry containers full of them.
Holy cow.
We would see bedrooms, where little kids were. And they're just all over the place. I still think about the health risks of myself going into some of these places, because we would interview people and they would be like, yeah, I got into a fight with him and we were using, and he grabbed a big spoon and I just knocked it out of his hand. And then I was like, in this room? In this room? And I'm like looking around like, and I know for sure you didn't vacuum this room, those things went through my mind. We were not prepared for meth addicts when they were in their excited delirium stages. The strength some of them had while under the influence was no match. I remember one individual that was a non-enrolled that decided to fight everybody in one of the local bars, and 6 of us are on him, and he was a little guy. He was only like maybe 5'10", maybe at 155 pounds at the most. And he straight up did a push-up with all of us on him. And tasers did not work. And it was scary at times. I will say that, and we had to think outside the box of how we're going to not hurt this person and not get ourselves hurt in the process. And I will say that right there is nobody prepared us for that. Nobody really told us until later on. Then we would start having trainings. Another thing that then it went from meth to then people started dabbling with heroin. And from black tar to the powder. And when you bring new things here, that means a new behavior, a new addiction that you got to study, a new, how do they ingest it? What's the paraphernalia? And it was just, like, I know for years, it was just, all of us were just constantly trying to see what the, the new things were that these guys were doing. And then they were creative. I will say this with a lot of their ways to ingest. I think the worst I seen was an individual. At the time, I did not really truly understand the opioid addiction. I really didn't.
What do you mean?
How people describe it to me now is when you get addicted to opioids, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, that's all you think about.
Yeah.
You think about it. I still can't comprehend that too much other than what they tell me in interviews. So when people were doing things like they basically busted all their veins in their arms, their hands, their feet. I had an addict that, was his eye. And we looked at him like, he goes, I needed it. And I couldn't understand that. At that moment, at that time, dealing with him, I could not understand it. Like, how could you, I have a hard time putting my contacts in. Like, I don't even know how you could put a needle right to your, your eye to have this drug. And he was like, I blew out all my veins. I don't got nothing. And then I was like, is that even humanly possible? And a lot of the behaviors.
Yeah.
When meth addicts were on day 3 of being up and the hallucinations, I never seen that before. It's almost as if they were possessed, and like, yeah, this is someone I grew up with. Yes, this is someone I know, and for some odd reason, I don't know why it was, but if I came on scene, they would get really scared of me and be like, I don't want her here. I don't want her here. And I'm not one of those cops that's like, well, I mean, if I was the only one, yes. But if there were several others, I'd be like, you guys go handle it, because if I keep going at them, they're gonna either attack me or someone's gonna get hurt, and I don't want that. So,
it increased drugs amounts people are using. So it's going from usually just meth and alcohol to encountering people in places and vehicles full of different paraphernalias and different behaviors now on multiple types of drugs. And then obviously different people from all over the United States, more money. So then at what point because I remember at some point people started getting indicted. Was that like right when the boom happened, or did you guys have to like staff up, or did MHA always have the, what do you want to say, like the judicial power to do that, or how did that happen? Or because I remember there for a while there, I just remember when I was in my addiction, I remember every spring and every winter there were sweeps, and people were just
hiding out
and telling on each other, and freaking, it was crazy. It was crazy. What was it like for you guys there? What was going on?
My role at the time, which I was patrol, was, again, I can't tell you the defining moment of why I was good at just drugs or whatever, but I arrested a lot of people. And some of those people, you know, they had jobs, had kids, you know, whatever they felt they were within the community. They didn't want to be in jail, not for the charge that they were getting, which was a drug charge, you know. And that's when the FBI and the BIA, Division of Drug Enforcement, came in. They'd get arrested, they'd get interviewed, and that's when people, and what I brought to the table was there was a major operation at the end of 2012, which was Winter's End. And that was about 12 people of our enrolled members, plus some other ones that were from out of state. One of the individuals that was indicted, he knew who I was by name. I'm very touchy with my name, my first name. If I didn't give it to you to call me when I introduced to you, don't call me my name. Don't call me my first name. I prefer, you know, Miss White or Don White or White. But we happened to be at the casino, and he was like, "Oh, hi, Don." And I looked over and I was like, and he was a Hispanic, and everybody was scared of him because he was all tatted up. And then I was like, and I looked at him and they're like, "Do you know who that is?" And I was like, "No, I don't know who that is. I guess somebody wants to meet. Somebody wants to be friendly. Okay, let's be friendly. Where's your ID?" And people were just not used to my aggressiveness, I guess, when I approached you. But he was like, "I don't have an ID." And I was like, "Then get off the floor. You're on the gaming floor. Get off the floor. We'll escort you out to your car." And then later on, they showed me his face. And I was like, that's the guy that called me by my name. And some people have, you know, fears for me that I don't have for myself. I guess you have to, and that goes back to my grandpa's teachings. He was, you know, you're you know, cowboys don't cry, Indians don't know how, and we're water coolie. We don't give a shit. And he's like, "I don't care if you get in a fight with 5 people, you know, Donnie, but if, you know, and you get your ass whooped," he's like, "but you better take 3 with you, and the other 2 better think twice about ever messing with you again." So he really instilled that no fear, that don't be scared of anybody attitude and stuff. And I never was. I mean, I am to a point, but not where you're going to sit there and see it. And it's not going to show. And so Winter's End occurred, and it was supposed to be a sealed indictment. And they were like, "Well, you can only arrest 4 of them." Because I felt accomplished that these were individuals that were distributing and within the community, and you could see it. You know, it wasn't older people; it was all young people. It was all like 18 to 25-year-olds, and that's a dangerous one because it's like, you know, then it's going to get lower and lower. So. So what happened was I initially arrested the 4 people that I could find that day. And then I remember by that Friday, they were like, they read the whole indictment. They know all the people on the list, and they all got released. So now you have to find all the other ones. I kind of did that night. I kind of did that night, except for one. But it was just, I think Winter's End was really a defining moment on Fort Berthold. Did it stop the drug use? Did it stop people distributing? No, but it did show some people, like, I could really get in trouble over this now.
Yeah.
Like, I can really go to prison over this now. You know, like,
Yep.
I'm really going to get into trouble. So with that in mind, then yes, that's where people were getting arrested and being like, nah, man, you ain't worth it. You ain't worth my family or my, you know, what I got going on. You know, I'm just a user, you know, like I ain't making no money. I ain't the kingpin or whatever. And then it was that. And then also the circumstances of what happened on 9th Street with the barricaded subject. You know, he was like everybody thinks, like when it comes to drugs, it's just, you know, one set of race. Oh, it's the cartel. Oh, you know, it's just these guys, you know, these black guys from Michigan. No, I've seen it all. I've seen it all. My oldest meth addict at the time when I arrested them was 68. And believe it or not, this person was selling themselves to get their habit, to pay for their habit. The youngest documented in interview overdose was a 3-year-old. And in my career, I've arrested old people and I've arrested juveniles. And I've arrested people with doctorate degrees. I've arrested people who never finished 8th grade. Drugs don't care. A lot of our opioid addicts and how that came about, a lot of them got injured. Car accident, sports injury, something. And they were given well over 3 months supply of oxycodones or hydromorphone pills. And that's where I seen that. That's where I really started seeing that. And I really didn't know. I mean, you could tell me back in 2000, like June, no, really, like about 2016, I did see the pill usage. But if you would have said, Don, 10 years from now, fentanyl is going to take this place, I would have never believed you. The first time I ever heard of a fentanyl overdose was probably in 2013 when, and this was just through, it wasn't an arrest, it was just a welfare check. Somebody told me to go do a welfare check on somebody. And they're like, yeah, we haven't heard from him for a couple days. Can you go check on him, Don? I'm like, yeah. So I did. And he was like, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. And I'm like, well, what happened? And he goes, nothing. And I was like, well, it's after the fact. Like, what happened? And then he was just, what he told me was he took a fentanyl patch, heated it up, poked it, inhaled, and then got knocked out. And that's the first time I heard about fentanyl patches. I had no clue what a fentanyl patch was. You know, we have stories too of where somebody got arrested and they put all these fentanyl patches on them and then went to jail, but nobody looked because they're just clear. And then they did OD because they put them all on them. And that's the whole thing, is like things that were prescribed by a doctor, everybody thinks, oh, they're safe, you know. No. No, it was a lot. We had to learn fast, like what overdoses looked like. Will I say that we probably missed some in the beginning of our careers? Yeah, we did, because we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
We really didn't. We took it as a medical emergency, and that's pretty much what it was. And, tried to help them. But yeah, it was, I will say, during the boom, it was pretty wild.
That's kind of why I wanted to bring it up, so that we could kind of give a broad timeline, about how things progressed here for us at MHA, through the different drug use and different what you guys are seeing in the streets and in our society, the different things that were going on, and to lead us up through the just like what we're starting to talk about now, when fentanyl come around, like even myself and my own addiction, for the longest time, I didn't even know anybody that overdosed before.
Mm-hmm.
But then it got to a point to where at some point it was like
Every day. Yeah.
People, unless you weren't, or how do you say that? Like, if someone overdosed, you want what they have.
Yeah.
Because it's like good. It's going to be good, and it's going to be worth your money.
And that's something I always like. One of the things that kind of scares me is every and I don't mean this in any kind of bad way, but every time someone overdoses a lot off fentanyl, a lot of times you hear, oh, they didn't know what they were taking. And I know that's true sometimes. But like when we were out there, like Morgan said, if someone overdosed, like you wanted to know where he got that from, or while he was asleep, you were taking it out of his pockets. It wasn't like that's what we would go after, and then like if you guys trying to balance it too, like this is something that I've jumbled in my brain for so long, because I bet 95% of the people that are selling fentanyl are addicted to it.
Yes.
Like you said, they're not the kingpin. They're not making any money. They're not. So like, how do you guys balance that? Like with enforcement, but also showing like compassion?
For me, it was always, accountability.
Mm.
But then also being honest with us about where you're getting it from.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I worked with a lot of agencies, okay? A lot of agencies. And I saw how ATF, FBI, DEA, BIA, I seen it all. I seen how all of them, take on a case, do what they got to do. Did I like it? Not really, because part of me was like, that's not a bad person. They just made a bad choice. Like, you don't even know them. And a lot of my non-enrolled partners, they would get sketched out if I went into an interview and the person we're interviewing looks up and goes, oh, hi, sister. Hi, auntie.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would look at me like, and then afterwards they would be like, is that really your, and I said, yes. But I'm going to tell you this. If I went in that interview and they were like, oh, it's Don White, and just gave a stinko look, we weren't getting anywhere. And I would have walked out. But the fact that they call me by my family title name to them is a sign of respect. And they're going to be truthful in this because they know they can't lie in front of me. I'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, we're going to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of had to get over that with a lot of the agents I worked with. And a lot of times, too, some of them just put their cases together and, oh, Don, can you find so-and-so? And then I couldn't find them, and then they would just go on with their case. And I didn't like that either. I think everybody should have an opportunity when they're facing indictment to tell us their truth about it. At least give them an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And
we try that. We do that. With drug enforcement, we do that. We tell them, like, hey, look, this is your moment. This is your time. This is it. We already know what you've been doing. Like, it's all right here. These are the facts. And but for me too, it's accountability.
No.
You knowingly did this. You knowingly poisoned our people. It's really hard to go tell a family they lost their child, they lost their relative because of opioids. And there's moments and times where they blame us. You guys, you didn't do enough. You could have did more. You could have, maybe. But at the same time too, that's your family member. You could have did an EDO. What I feel on Fort Berthold, that was something back in my day, was each of us, I don't care who you are, each of us had an uncle and an auntie we were deathly afraid of. And they were the ones that were, hey, go talk to so-and-so,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that anymore. It's coming back a little, but how I just tell my guys is that every seizure we do, I don't care if it's 1 pill, I don't care if it's 100 pills. At the end of the day, that was a life save.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do feel that. I don't care if you do 20 pills a day, 50 pills a day, 1 pill will kill. You better hope you're around the people that say that they're your ride or die. Because we've seen it. We've seen hardcore addicts, 1 hit, they went down.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we really get upset about in law enforcement and the EMS people, stop putting water on these people. Stop. That does not help. The only thing that's going to help this person is Narcan. Mm-hmm. That's it. And when in 2020, when I took over as the supervisory special agent, I'll share this with you. End of 2019, beginning of 2020, it was just down to, MHA Drug Enforcement was just down to 2 agents. Me and Agent Dwayne Bowen. We're both from Fort Berthold. We're both born and raised. And then he had a medical issue that he went down, and it was just me. Now it was just
2020?
Yes. End of 19.
Was it just turnover or budget, or
no,
people not from here just
people
give up, or
people
no place to live, or what?
People resigned and they left MHA Drug Enforcement. And I was the only lone agent. And in a 3-week period, we had 17 overdoses and 3 deaths. And I almost quit. It really got overwhelming. And it just seemed like nobody was helping me. And my canine division, they had to ride with me for a week. And some of them were just like, oh my God, Dawn, I don't know how you do it. I wanted to be an agent, but after seeing how you work, I don't know, I'm questioning it now, because the amount of work that goes into cases and talking to people and trying to get justice and trying to do this, and then trying to ask other agencies for help. And so I did what I do. I do best. I write a lot. And, I wrote about it. And the next day, I start having all this help from different agencies, which was an improvement. But at the same time, I was like, I shouldn't have to yell at anybody to get help. It's come a long way since then. It's come a long ways to where we're 6 agents and we're still at our 5 canines. So, but when I pushed the initiative and did go in front of council and told them the strategies that I wanted to implement to combat this, because I believe in 2020, we had over 108 overdoses on Fort Berthold alone that year. There was a lot of pushback on that Narcan. And it was because people, and again, it's because the community does not understand the opioid addiction. They just think like, oh, it's like alcohol, just quit. Oh no, you can't. And then also too is like, when I say accountability, I mean accountability from everybody in the community. You may not do drugs, but you're contributing to things. You're condoning bad behavior. You want to be called an elder, but then yet you're pointing out all the mistakes of these young people, but you're not telling them, how to fix it. You're not giving them insight. You're not giving them any kind of wisdom to say, because yes, back in the day, you guys had alcohol. Back in the day, you had weed, but guess what? That's not what any of our kids are facing right now. None of our kids are facing that. I have a teenage daughter now. It's the internet. You know how many monsters are on the internet? You know how much what internet bullying does to young kids now? All I ever had was teasing on the playground, but then again, we got over it and, laughed about it and continued on. But that's not how today is.
Yeah.
And I'm just not the only fixer of the community. I'm the one that holds people accountable for what they do wrong. But then yet at the same time, I know the responsibility to sit there and say, okay, you got a problem. We acknowledge you got a problem. Now what are you going to do about it? Because if you're going to sit here and tell me, Dawn, I'm going to keep using, there's nothing you can do to make me stop. Okay. I accept your choice. Good, bad, ugly, I accept your choice. I respect it. You told me the truth. Then don't get mad when we keep arresting you. Don't get mad when we hold you accountable for when you break the law. Don't get mad. Don't get upset with us. Go to jail like a man or a woman, But if you don't want to live this life, you don't want to do this, I'll open that door for you. But I can't make you go through it. And we've called We've called the number, and did the intake over the phone right then and there. Did they follow up on it? I don't know. But at least we gave them the first step, because everybody else was telling them. I prayed for this moment. I prayed for these recovery services. Because when I started, all we had was what? Partial resource and circle of life. And all of that was pretty much geared to alcoholics. That was not geared to meth. And it certainly took them a minute to get geared for the opioid addiction. And it was like, okay, I get it. I arrest these people, but then they're going to go right back in the same home, right with the same friends, right in the same environment. And I was like, why can't we do things? Why can't we have some type of team, that helps them straighten up their house? Or, a lot of the addicts that I came into contact with are 3rd generation addicts. Now I'm on 4th generation addicts. I don't know how to fix that. I don't even think I can, because somebody back in the day went to boarding school and trauma occurred. It never healed. So they became alcoholics. And then they showed their kids how to deal with grief. This is how you deal with grief. You have a drink. You do this. You do that. This is, I get sickened by the whole thing of, Indian love, black eye and a hickey, like whatever, It's those stereotypes really bother me. And we don't talk about things anymore. Families don't talk about things. There is no spirituality, because sometimes even when they sober up and they go somewhere and then their family's like, oh, where are you going? Oh, I'm going to go to a sweat. Oh, geez, big Indian, And then I'm like, those help, but then I see it coming back. I see the movement coming back. And some of you don't know this. Tila. I think, wasn't that 2020 at
Which
the
one?
casino, that first addiction summit? August of
21,
2020.
Yeah.
Tila sees me at the casino and she's like, hey, Dawn, we're having this addiction summit and we're in a breakout session. Can you come? And I was like, at first I was like, you really want me there? Like, you really want me there? And she's like, yeah, I really want you there, And I'm like, okay, I'll be there, And I dragged my daughter along, and my oldest daughter. And a little backstory on that is that because of how my grandpa raised me, I don't cry in public. He just raised me not to cry. And I have a hard time, showing emotion like that, even though I'm a woman. That was the first time I cried in public. I sat up in the front and each one got up. It was Jenna started it out, then Rochelle, then you, Tila, and one of the Dinkses, I believe, right? Or Bakers.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but I never dealt with them ever, but I dealt with all of you and every one of you guys.
5 of us or so, 5 or 6 of us, yeah.
And it was standing room only. It was all the chairs were filled and it was packed in there. And I remember just listening to each of you, and then it was kind of crazy because everybody was like, you know, told their Don White story, and then I was like, you know, but afterwards I did ask, you know, like each one individually, like they're like, well, you know, it's the way you talk to us, Don. It's the way that you know, you cared. You know, we weren't just somebody you were arresting. You actually cared what happened to us, and it's true. Like, you know, what Jenna was talking about, like in those winter times when her addiction, that I would watch her in the winter. She wouldn't get in my ride because she knew she had stuff on her. So, but she said, at least you made me feel safe. And I said, I tried to. You know, I tried to look out for you. You know, who else was going to look out for you? You know? And I really cried. I cried not because I was sad. I cried because, in all honesty, that was just beautiful to witness. Like right then and there, I knew what was coming. And it was just really beautiful to watch. Really, it was. And to see where everything is right now with the recovery services, I tell a lot of people who get anxiety over this in their recovery and they're being sober, like they're always thinking like something bad's gonna happen or this is gonna get taken away or something. And I'm like, that's because you've been in survival mode for so long and now you're living. Now you're, and I said, and now you don't know how to relax in this, and you prayed for this moment. Enjoy it. Feel blessed. You know, Creator, and a lot of them too. I said, Creator could have took you at any time, you guys, anytime, but you guys have a purpose. What is that purpose? And I think a lot of people are finally finding their purpose and what they want, you know, people to know. And believe it or not, a lot of them inbox me or call me and when they're having their moments. And a lot of the newspaper reporters that I've been with, they really are, these are national reporters, okay? They've seen everything and anything. And they said, we've never seen that. We've never seen a cop where people come up and hug the person that arrested them. And then they were like, why? And I was like, probably because I still say hi to them and I still care about them and I still pray for them. And I said, they changed their lives around. They really did. I said, from where they were to what they are now, I said, it's a complete, I said, you would never recognize those old pictures of them to what they are right now. I said, so I've dealt with everybody at their worst and now, you know, their best.
Yeah. I was going to comment too, because, excuse me, I remember, you know, I've had some years now being on this side of things. And when we were talking about like when the indictment started and all of that, and we had a conversation about this, about, you know, most of the people that I know, almost all of them, ones that are still alive, most of the people that I know personally that are close to me that were indicted over the years, you know, there was nothing else that was going to help them. They had to, they had to be under threat of, you know, prison. There's nothing else out there that would, and it's not them. It's not that we were such morally bad people that, that's how strong the addiction is. Nothing else is going to take you away from it than else putting you in taking you out and making you go to jail for a while. And then when you're out, having that threat over your head, I tell people all the time, like, that was part of what helped me. I was never indicted, but I sure went to jail a lot, and that come with years of probation. That probation and that threat of, being in trouble and, following the rules and following the law, that was part of my recovery. That's what I needed. And I know, and so, I know some, because we were having a conversation about, the law enforcement side of this addiction, and when people, they get in trouble, they might get indicted, and they might have a record over their heads for the rest of their life, and family might be upset about that and mad about that. But it's like, people have to realize that has to be that, or, this person probably won't survive. Mm-hmm. Especially now today, just like we've been talking about for the last 50 minutes, what's out there now is scary. It's like, it don't matter how good of an addict you are or where your tolerance is. You don't know what they're putting in that stuff.
No.
And I wanted to talk about that too. And what you guys are seeing, we were talking about different behaviors and different, what it looks like out there. Because, we see different drugs on TV all the time, and it just makes you, just myself, it's like, you're scared for people just to relapse even one time. You're scared for people, you don't know what you're going to encounter out there anymore, Mm-hmm. So I don't know where I was going with that. I was just thinking about that and wanted to make sure to mention that, that part that, that all the work that you're doing, that you've done over the years of, the indictments and working with different 3-letter places and all the writing you do, the documentation, going to court, arresting family members, it's worth it and it works.
Yeah.
And for this addiction, it's what people need.
Yeah.
And even if people don't agree with it and understand it and like it it's just how it has to be. And so, that's how we see it,
Yeah.
That's how people that are actually in recovery, that have gone through it. We know there was no other way out,
We've gotten a few, that little salty about how things got played out. Well, how come I'm going to jail and how come I got indicted and so didn't?
Mm-hmm. Have you had family members come after you for putting people in jail or indicting people or anything like that? Or have you caught some heck? And
Yes, I have. I've had people not talk to me. I've had people, even today, upset with me.
Yeah.
I know what I did. I never put the needle in your arm. I never filled up that needle. I never got a pill press and made those drugs. I never went to a different state, country, whatever, and brought back drugs. I never did any of that. People have choice words to say to me, I've accepted it. Mm-hmm. I accept anger. Mm-hmm. On whatever level you want to go. If you want to sit there and get mad, go ahead, get mad at me. But I'm still going to pray for you, and I'm still going to pray for your child or your relative, and I'm still going to do my job. Because this isn't about you, this isn't about them. This is about saving my home. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line, because when I was in the service, there was I got deployed to Bosnia, Croatia, and Bosnia. Bosnia is the former Yugoslavia, and it's about the size of Tennessee. And at the time I went, it had over 1 million mines in that country. And some people knew where they were, and some people didn't know where they were. And we always had to be careful of where we walked, where we were. There was a night where we had to walk. We didn't know where we were walking. And the elements of nature occurred, and it was raining and it was storming, and I was really contemplating why I even joined the military at that point, and what did I really get myself into, and like a lot of service people who are in that moment where you don't know if you're going to see tomorrow, you pray. You pray to the Creator, and you sit there and you make a deal. Get me through this, and I will do this, this, and this. And that's what I did. I gave my vow to my people, and that's what I'm doing. Is it my job? Is it deeper than the badge? Yes. This is home. This is the last. Fort Berthold is the last of the MHA Nation. That's it. We're not going to get any more land. You know, we might populate as people, but that land is the last of what any of us have. That where our people came from.
Mm-hmm.
And why do I have to rely on the federal government to hold our people accountable? Because a lot of people have asked me, you know, Donnie, is it hard for you to arrest your own? In the beginning, yes. As the years have passed, no. Because, as my grandpa would say, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? People talk about stuff, but who's going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Have I been told that we ruined a lot of young people's lives by federally indicting them and now they can't get a job? No, I didn't. No, I did not. Because there was a moment that your child was around you and asked you for help and did a cry for help. Were you listening? Because in this addiction, you can, there was a moment way over here where they could have went through door A or door B. And a lot of people are going through door B and end up at door C where I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what was that moment? You know, I know each of you had a moment where you asked for that help and you were just like, it went on deaf ears, or no, I got other things I need to worry about and deal with. I can't help you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
what I teach my agents is always have empathy. No matter who is sitting across from us on that table, that's somebody's child, that's somebody's parent, that's somebody's relative. Always remember that. And talk to them the way you want to be talked to.
Mm-hmm.
So they do. I mean, a lot of them
Yeah.
try to talk to you, to anybody they come in contact with in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
But I do get a lot of slack.
Yeah,
I am
figure.
even from individuals that are indicted on probation, and you know, they say a few choice words to me,
Yeah.
but does it bother me? To a certain point, I'm human. Am I gonna sit there and say something smart back? Yeah, I can, but hard feelings are already there. Why do I need to make them harder? You know, it just shows me that you're still holding on to the past and you're not trying to move forward and heal. So you need more healing. So I'm going to just pray for you a little bit more. That's how I look at things.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job. And that's what I heard when you were on the phone that day. So I kind of knew when you were going to come in here. Because I grew up on Standing Rock, and we have a cop down there that is from the community and knows all of us and arrested all of us, you know, and you probably know who he is.
Well, him and his fellow buddies like to call me Queen of the South, and I call him King of the North, or they call me Queen of the North, and I call them, what do you call it? I always call him the King of the South, and then we always crack up laughing. But yes, we do talk, and yes, we have mutual respect for each other as colleagues, and in what we've accomplished in our careers.
And I think today this conversation, like, because I work in this field now, I get to work with probation officers. I get to work with you guys. Like, I get to have these kind of conversations, but I don't think the public gets to. Like, I don't think the person, we don't realize in our addiction how many people care about us, you know, like how many chances we actually have with people. And obviously yours is unique, you know, like you care. And I realize that about him now, that he cares about his community, and that's why he is the way he is. You know, if you're on the other side of that, it's not a great place to be, you know, but I know, you know, it's going to be hard for anyone listening to this conversation today to not know that you care about your community first and foremost, you know, regardless. And I'm a big believer in accountability too, you know. So I think you've done a great job of like clearing up those misunderstandings. What would you want to say to someone who wants to change their life but feels like they're held back by the legal issues that they have behind them?
Well, first, to me, it's about getting sober. But when you do get sober, don't get sober because somebody told you to. Don't get sober because that's the only way you're going to get your kids back. Don't get sober because you met somebody sober, you know? Get sober because you want to live. You want to live. As Native people, that's not stressed enough. When we die, in my opinion, everybody that oppressed us, they win. Because it's like, see, I told you so. See, that's the decisions they make. See, that's why they need us. We were all of our nations were beautiful communities. And we have to find that balance. We have to find who we are, what our purpose is, and that your legal issues, just a detail in your life, but it doesn't define you. That indictment doesn't define you. That's not how your story ends. You have a choice to how your story ends. There's a lot of people that have gotten indicted, federal charges, professionals, helping the community, or just out there living their life, enjoying it. I don't know what that is for everybody. I don't know what brings you joy and peace. But once you have that peace, guard that fiercely. And don't let anybody take it from you. That's how I feel. That's how I think. I can't speak for my agents. But for me, live. And whatever definition that is to you, live.
I think that's a great place to end it right there. Again, thank you, Dawn. This has been amazing. And hopefully, I know we got Nate coming in. Dawn said we could have Nate out to ourselves.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
yeah, we'll have Nate come in, and I'm gonna have to do some push-ups. See who can do more push-ups. No, but thank you again, and I just want to say thank you to all of our listeners. We just hit some milestones on both Spotify and YouTube, so thank you guys for that. Thank you guys for the support on TikTok, Facebook. If you guys need anything, anytime, our hotline number is 701-421-3312. We'll answer that thing 24/7, so just give us a call, and we'll see you guys next time.
In this life